What's going on, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move podcast. Today's February 5th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you to the supporters, subscribers, and followers. We really appreciate you guys. Also, thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, I'll be talking about some NBA today, just general information against the spread trends, head to head team history, player history, team defense, league leaders, injuries. I even have some triple double history stuff here today. The reason why I call this show way too early is because it is way too early, really, to be dissecting these games. Simply because injury information isn't fully clear at this time of day, right? Usually about an hour before tip off, we get a lot more clarification on who's playing and who's not. My favorite sources that I like to use are the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app and rotowire.com, ROTO wire.com. Now, the NBA defense versus position information is beneficial, but I won't be covering that today. A site that I've used in the past is fantasypros.com. I know there's probably some other sources out there that you guys can use, but I'll clarify that here in just a little bit. So, some injuries. Like I said, we don't have all of the information that we need, but hey, let me hold on, guys. I'll be right back. One moment, please. All right, sorry about that. Injuries that I see today: Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors is out with a knee issue. Devin Booker with the Phoenix Suns out with an ankle issue. Cam Thomas for the Brooklyn Nets out due to personal reasons. Keontae George for Utah out with an ankle issue. PJ Washington for Dallas out with a concussion. Franz Wagner for Orlando out with an ankle issue. Jaren Jackson Jr. was recently traded from Memphis to Utah. He is out for today. He still needs to get settled in with his new team, is what they were saying there on rotowire.com. Josh Giddey for the Chicago Bulls out with a hamstring issue. Paul George for Philadelphia out. He's suspended. And then questionable players. Typically, when players are questionable, there's about a 50-50 chance that they play. So Jalen Green for Phoenix is questionable due to a hamstring/hip issue. Cade Cunningham for the Detroit Pistons is questionable with a wrist issue. Tobias Harris for Detroit, questionable with a hip issue. Embiid for Philadelphia, questionable with an ankle issue. Daniel Gafford for Dallas, questionable with an ankle issue. Trey Jones for Chicago, questionable with a hamstring issue. Dosunmu for Chicago, questionable with a quadricep issue. And Okongwu for Atlanta, questionable with a mouth issue. First game that we have on today's slate is Washington at Detroit. Washington is on a one-game losing streak. Detroit is on a three-game winning streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Detroit has won one regular season game in a row against Washington and have won their past 4 out of 5 regular season meetings against Washington. Detroit beat Washington earlier this season. That game was at Detroit, like it is today, by a final score of 137 to 135 in overtime. That was the only time that they've played this season. Washington has a 1-4 money line record on Thursdays this season. Detroit is 1-3 on the money line on Thursdays this season. I did notice that Cade Cunningham, the point guard for Detroit, has a 3-1 career record against Alex Sarr, the projected center for Washington. Also, if you guys like Cade Cunningham points today, I do got to say uh, that he has scored his career high against Washington in 2025. And he also had a triple double in that game. He scored 46 points, had 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. Last that I checked, Detroit is favored by 14 and a half points. So, there's always, if you're thinking about some player props, there's always that like blowout potential that could happen, really in any game. But, it seems like it would be more likely to happen in games like this where a team is favored by 10 plus points. Um, but yeah, Detroit favored by 14 and a half, over under 227 and a half. Against the spread trends, Detroit is better against the spread than Washington. Detroit's 25 and 24 against the spread. Washington's 21 and 28 against the spread, which ranks fourth worst in the NBA. And then also, Detroit has a better against the spread record as a home favorite than Washington does as a road underdog. Detroit is 10 and 11 against the spread as a home favorite. Washington's 9 and 14 against the spread as a road underdog, which ranks fourth worst there for Washington. Monica, thank you for the follow. Hope you're having a great day. And then Washington, after a loss, has barely a better against the spread record than Detroit does after a win. Washington 17 and 18 against the spread after a loss. Detroit 17 and 19 after a win. So overall, after those three trends, Detroit leads that trend search query 2-1. Detroit is a very good defensive team. They rank second in team defensive efficiency. Don't let that word confuse you. Basically, it's just judging how good or bad a defense is. All right. Yeah, Detroit ranks second best, so they are very good defensively. And Washington is not. They rank 29th, so second worst in team defensive efficiency. So, points in the paint allowed per game, Washington ranks 25th in that category right now. Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham are the leaders for the Detroit Pistons in points in the paint per game. Jalen Duren ranks fifth best in the NBA. Cade Cunningham ranks 18th best. And then fast break points allowed per game, Washington is below average at that. They rank 20th in that category. Cade Cunningham is the only player for Detroit in the top 50 in the NBA for Detroit in fast break points per game. He ranks 14th best in the NBA. And then 3-point field goals allowed per game. Washington ranks 20th in that category. Duncan Robinson is the only player for Detroit in the top 50 of the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. He ranks 17th in that category. Assists. Washington allows the second most assists per game to opposing teams. Cade Cunningham is the best assist player in the NBA. In regards to assists per game, he ranks first in that category. And I'm just looking at the fantasypros.com NBA defense versus position, just for an example here. And Washington allows the 8th most assists per game to point guards, according to this source. I do think those defense versus position tools are valuable, but I won't be going over that today. Okay, so if I say that Cade Cunningham has a fast breaks advantage, right? Basically, I'm just going off of the team ranking, not necessarily the position and how they defend against that position. Okay, but it should give you a nice foundation to work with throughout the rest of the day. I know the internet has a lot of people that talk about player props and stuff. So, but this is more of like a general show for you guys. And then rebounds allowed per game. Washington allows the most rebounds per game to opposing teams. Jalen Duren ranks sixth best in the NBA in rebounds per game. I do give Detroit a big turnover advantage in this game. They cause the most turnovers per game out of any team in the NBA, and Washington turns the ball over a lot. They rank 26th in team turnovers per game. And then, free throws. If you like any player for Washington today on the points and they're decent at getting to the free throw line, Detroit does send their opponents to the free throw line more than any other team in the league. Washington's not far behind them, though. They rank 27th in opponent free throw attempts per game. So Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren are the free throw attempt leaders for Detroit. Cade Cunningham ranks 11th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game, and then Jalen Duren ranks 27th in that category. I mentioned that Cade Cunningham, scored the most points he has ever scored in his career against Washington in 2025. So I believe that was earlier this season, if I'm not mistaken, 11-10-2025. So he did have a triple-double in that game. He has had a triple-double in 2 out of 12 career games against Washington. All right, then we have the Brooklyn Nets at Orlando Magic. Both of these teams are on a 2-game losing streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Orlando has won 8 regular season games in a row against Brooklyn. Orlando has beaten Brooklyn twice this season. One was at Orlando, and Orlando won that game 105-98. But the most recent game was in Brooklyn. Excuse me, but Orlando won that game by a final score of 104-103 in overtime. The Brooklyn Nets have a 0-4 money line record on Thursdays this season, and Orlando is 3-2 on the money line on Thursdays this season. And I did notice Banchero for the Orlando Magic has a 4-3 career record against Michael Porter Jr. Last that I checked, the spread was minus 11.5 for Orlando. I'm looking now, I'm seeing minus 10.5 for Orlando. Over under 212.5 when I checked a few hours ago. It's climbed to 214.5. Against the spread trends, I looked at 3 different trends. Brooklyn leads all 3 of these trends here against Orlando. Brooklyn is 24-24-1 against the spread this season. Orlando is 19-30 against the spread this season, which ranks second worst in the NBA. And then Brooklyn is 12-12-1 against the spread as a road underdog, whereas Orlando's 8-11 against the spread as a home favorite. So Brooklyn wins that trend. And then Brooklyn is better after a loss against the spread than Orlando is. Brooklyn's 19-15-1 against the spread after a loss. Orlando's 11-12 against the spread after a loss. Team defensive efficiency, both of these teams are below average in that. So Orlando ranks 16th in that category. Brooklyn ranks 26th. With all these with all the trades and stuff that are going on right now, some of these numbers, if teams have made big trades, these numbers defensively could be a little misleading. So like Memphis, for example, let's say that Memphis was really good at defending against points in the paint this season. They just recently traded Jaren Jackson Jr. Maybe that goes down, so let's keep that in mind too. This is a pretty hectic time in the NBA right now with the trade deadline. Okay, so both of these teams are below average in points in the paint allowed per game. Orlando ranks 21st in that category. Claxton ranks 49th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then Brooklyn ranks 27th in points in the paint allowed per game. So they allow almost the most points in the paint per game to opposing teams. Franz Wagner is the leader for the Magic, but he is out today, according to RotoWire.com. But then it's Banchero. So if you like Banchero today, you got that working with you. He ranks 29th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. Orlando's also below average at allowing opponents to score fast break points per game. They rank 22nd. I didn't find anybody for the Brooklyn Nets in the top 50 of the NBA in fast break points per game. But if you like somebody for Brooklyn today and they're decent at scoring fast break points, you have that in your favor. Brooklyn allows the second most fast break points per game to opposing teams. So, although Franz Wagner leads the team in fast break points per game, he's not playing today, from my understanding. Then it's going to be Anthony Black and then Banchero. Anthony Black ranks 21st in fast break points per game in the NBA, and then Banchero ranks 39th. Both of these teams are pretty good at defending against the 3-point shots. Orlando ranks second best in 3-point field goals allowed per game, and Brooklyn's not far behind. They rank seventh best. So, Michael Porter Jr., I know he kind of had like an ideal matchup the other day against the Lakers. I think he went like 0 for 9 from downtown, right? Uh, Maybe this is a time where he's got a tough matchup and he does good. I mean, it happens like that sometimes. But on paper, looks just looking at this general information, not looking at how Orlando guards against Michael Porter Jr.'s position, but just this general information here. Michael Porter Jr. and Dimon, uh, although they're good 3-point shooters, they could, uh, have a tough matchup today. Brooklyn ranks 24th in assists allowed per game, so they're close to the bottom of the league in allowing assists to opposing teams. Banchero ranks 38th for the Magic in assists per game this season, and then Desmond Bane ranks 49th in that category. I do also give Orlando a good turnover advantage here. Brooklyn turns the ball over quite often. They rank 25th in turnovers per game. Orlando ranks 11th best in turnovers forced per game. So I think, you could see some turnovers there in that game. Orlando does send their opponents to the free throw line pretty often. They rank 24th in opponent free throw attempts per game. Michael Porter Jr. is the leader for this Brooklyn Nets team in free throw attempts per game. He ranks 35th best in the NBA. So if you do like Michael Porter Jr. for some points today, I think you got a little bit of a extra bonus there with his, free throw advantage. And then I just want to mention that Banchero has had a triple double in 0 out of 7 career games against Brooklyn. And then we have the Utah Jazz at Atlanta Hawks. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Atlanta has won 3 regular season games in a row against Utah. These teams played each other one time this season, and that game was in Utah. This one's in Atlanta today. But the Hawks did win that game by a final score of 132 to 122. Today's Thursday, right? That game was also on a Thursday, November 13th. Utah is 2-5 on the money line on Thursdays this season, and Atlanta is 1-4 on Thursdays this season, which that only win was against Utah there for Atlanta. When I checked a few hours ago, Atlanta was favored by 9.5 points, which looks like they still are at the book that I'm looking at, which is DK, over under 242.5. Pretty high total there. It's at 243.5 now. Looked at 3 different types of against the spread trends, and Utah leads those trends 2-1. Overall, Utah is better against the spread than Atlanta. Utah's 27-24 against the spread. Atlanta's 26-26. And then Utah's 10-11 against the spread as a road underdog, whereas Atlanta's 2-9 against the spread as a home favorite. So Utah has that advantage there. And then, both of these teams after a win, it's pretty close. Utah's 7-8 against the spread after a win, but Atlanta does have the better record there after a win against the spread. They're 13-11. Defensively, both of these teams do rank below average in team defensive efficiency, but Utah ranks the worst in the NBA in team defensive efficiency. So let's talk about Atlanta's defense first, okay? They rank 23rd in points in the paint allowed per game, so they're below average at defending against that. Markkinen ranks 13th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then Jaren Jackson Jr. ranks 44th, but from my understanding, he won't be playing today. So really, it looks like Markkinen's going to be the beneficiary from that. But once again, I'm not looking at how Atlanta defends against Markkinen's position. I'm just looking at as a team how Atlanta is. But if you like Markkinen today, or if you come across somebody's live stream that likes Markkinen today and it interests you, I think you have that points in the paint advantage there, and also a fast breaks advantage. Atlanta allows the third most fast break points per game to opposing teams, and Markkinen ranks 26th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. Keontae George ranks 42nd in that category. I believe I mentioned that Keontae George is out today, though, right? Let's double check on that. Yeah, I'm seeing that Keontae George won't play. So Markkinen, once again, has a fast break advantage there. And then Atlanta is slightly below average in assists allowed per game to opposing teams. Collier ranks ninth best in the NBA in assists per game. Then it's Keontae George, who's out today. And then Nurkic ranks 36th best in the NBA in that category. And then Atlanta also is vulnerable to allowing rebounds per game to their opponents. So Nurkic ranks eighth best in the NBA in that category in rebounds per game. Markkinen, 36th. Jock Landale, 47th. Filipowski ranks 48th. So those would be the rebound leaders per game leaders for Utah in that order. And then Atlanta is slightly below average in allowing their opponents to get to the free throw line. Once again, Markkinen's good at getting to the line. He ranks 13th best in the NBA. And out of available Utah Jazz players, he ranks first in free throw attempts per game. So I see a lot of advantages here for Markkinen. So general advantages, right? Let's talk about Utah's defense or lack thereof. When I'm looking at Utah's defense, they are slightly below average in points in the paint allowed per game. They rank 18th in that category, but they rank worse in fast break points allowed per game and 3-point field goals allowed per game. But Jalen Johnson, just on this first look here, he's got a points in the paint advantage today. He ranks ninth best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then Dyson Daniels ranks 47th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. I mentioned Utah allows the most fast break points per game to opposing teams. Jalen Johnson, once again, ranks sixth best in the NBA in points, fast break points per game. And then it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. He ranks seventh best. And Reese Shea ranks 29th best in the NBA in fast break points per game. So if you like any of those players today, I do give them a strong fast break advantage just based on that general information there. Excuse me. And then we have the 3-point defense here for Utah. They rank last in 3-point field goals allowed per game, so they're very vulnerable to that. Nickeil Alexander-Walker ranks 12th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. And then CJ McCollum ranks 26th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. Those will be the two leaders for Atlanta in 3-point field goals made per game. Assists. Utah also allows the most assists per game to opposing teams. So Jalen Johnson ranks fourth best in the NBA in that category. Dyson Daniels ranks 16th in that category. And then Utah, they are slightly below average in allowing rebounds to their opponents. They rank 19th in that category. Jalen Johnson, Okongwu, and Dyson Daniels are the three leaders in that order for Atlanta in rebounds per game. Jalen Johnson ranks 7th, Okongwu 25th, Dyson Daniels 46th in rebounds per game. Free throws, Utah allows their opponents to get to shoot a good amount of free throws per game. They allow the third most. So here's Jalen Johnson and Nikhil Alexander Walker's names again. Jalen Johnson ranks 26th best in the NBA in free throw attempts per game. Nikhil Alexander Walker ranks 49th. I've already mentioned that, huh? Okay. And then, Jalen Johnson, always a triple double candidate. He does have a triple double in 1 out of 6 career games against Utah, but only played 3 minutes in one of those games. So it's really like more like 1 out of 5. And then Dyson Daniels has never had a triple double in 9 career games against Utah. Then we have the Chicago Bulls at Toronto Raptors. The Bulls are on a 2-game losing streak. Toronto's on a 1-game losing streak. Chicago did not play yesterday, but Toronto is on a back-to-back today. Chicago's won 4 regular season games in a row against Toronto. These teams have not played against each other this season. Chicago has a 1-1 money line record on Thursdays this season, and Toronto has a 2-1 money line record on Thursdays this season. I looked at 4 different against the spread trends in this game, and Chicago wins all of the trends. They're better against the spread than Toronto is just in general. Chicago is 25-26 against the spread. Toronto's 25-27, so it's close, but Chicago is technically better against the spread there. And then Chicago ranks 9th best in the NBA against the spread as a road underdog. They rank their records 10-6 against the spread as a road underdog. Toronto's 6-12 against the spread as a home favorite, which ranks second worst in the NBA. And then Chicago, these teams are both bad against the spread after a loss, but Toronto's a little bit worse. Chicago's 11-15 against the spread after a loss. Toronto is 8-13 against the spread after a loss. And then Chicago is the 6th best team against the spread in the NBA when they have rest advantage. I mentioned they didn't play yesterday, but Toronto did. Chicago 6-4 against the spread with rest advantage, and then Toronto's 3-5 against the spread with rest disadvantage, which ranks 6th worst in the NBA. Team defensive efficiency. Toronto is solid. They rank 9th best in that category, but Chicago ranks 25th. So Chicago's defense has been a little vulnerable here. Toronto is above average in every category that I've been talking about. Points in the paint allowed per game, fast break points allowed per game, 3-point field goals allowed per game, assists allowed per game, and rebounds per game. But their biggest flaw is going to be out of those categories is going to be the 3-point and rebounds allowed per game. They rank 10th best in both of those categories. So that's where I see, a flaw with them. Really their biggest flaw is the free throw attempts allowed per game. They allow their opponents to get to the free throw line quite often. They rank 25th in that category. But, I didn't see anybody for Chicago that is getting to the line often in regards to free throw attempts per game. But if you can find somebody, if you like somebody for, Chicago with the 3 ball or getting rebounds or, the free throw line, I suppose you have those things in your favor. But then let's talk about Chicago's defense or lack thereof, right? Their biggest vulnerability is assists allowed per game. They allow the 4th most assists per game to opposing teams. Quickly for Toronto is first on the team, 21st best in the NBA in assists per game, followed up with Scotty Barnes, who ranks 25th best, and Sheed, who ranks 29th. And then Chicago, points in the paint allowed per game. They're not good at that. They rank 26th in that category. So guys like Scotty Barnes, R.J. Barrett are very good at scoring points in the paint per game. Scotty Barnes ranks 20th best in the NBA. R.J. Barrett 42nd. And then quickly, Chicago is below average in their 3-point defense. Quickly ranks 27th best in the NBA in 3-point field goals made per game. He's projected to be that starting point guard tonight for for Toronto. And I'm going to try to find, how Chicago defends against the 3-point shot to point guards. Chicago ranks 12th worst in that category, so that's not terrible. Um, but and that's according to fantasypros.com. Okay. What else do we have here? Scotty Barnes. I don't know if I mentioned this. Chicago is slightly below average as a team in rebounds allowed per game to opposing teams. So Scotty Barnes is the leader for Toronto in rebounds per game. So he could have an advantage there. And I think that about does it for this game. Scotty Barnes, he is a triple-double candidate, right? He's had a triple-double in 1 out of 14 career games against Chicago. All right, and then we have Charlotte. Hey, what's going on, Blessed Up P? Good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining. All right, we have Charlotte Hornets at Houston Rockets. Charlotte's hot right now. They're on a 7-game win streak at Houston, 1-game losing streak. Charlotte didn't play yesterday, but Houston did. Houston has won 1 regular season game in a row against Charlotte and has won the last 4 out of 5 regular season meetings against Charlotte. These teams haven't played each other this season. Charlotte has a 4-2 money line record on Thursdays, and Houston has a 4-3 money line record on Thursdays this season. So that doesn't really give us much there. Last that I checked, which was a few hours ago, Houston was favored in this game by 3.5 points, over under 217.5. I'm seeing the same numbers here on DK. This is what the book that I used for that information. But against the spread trends, I looked at 4. I see them split those trend matchups, split 2-2. Charlotte is the second best team in the NBA against the spread, and Houston is the 8th worst team in the NBA against the spread. Charlotte is also the 10th best team in the NBA against the spread as a road underdog, whereas Houston ranks 7th worst against the spread as a home favorite. Houston is barely better against the spread after a loss than Charlotte is after a win. And then, I mentioned that Charlotte has rest advantage in this game. They do rank 3rd worst in the NBA against the spread with rest advantage. They're 3-8 against the spread with rest advantage. Houston's 4-4 against the spread with rest disadvantage. When I'm looking at these team defensive efficiencies, once again, that's just basically judging how good or bad a defense is. Houston has a good defense. Charlotte is slightly below average. Looks like Charlotte's biggest vulnerabilities are going to be points in the paint allowed per game and assists allowed per game. They rank 20th in points in the paint allowed per game. Şengün ranks 4th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game, and then Amen Thompson ranks 10th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game. And then assist allowed, right? There's Şengün again. Charlotte ranks 20th in assist allowed per game to opposing teams, so slightly below average at that, right? Şengün is the assist per game leader for Houston and ranks 18th best in the NBA in that category. Then we have Amen Thompson, who ranks 28th, and KD, Kevin Durant, who ranks 46th in that category. And then we have, I don't know if I mentioned the Charlotte Hornets ranked 19th in fast break points allowed per game, so slightly below average at defending against those fast break points. The only player I saw on Houston who ranks in the top 50 of the NBA in fast break points per game is Amen Thompson, who ranks 33rd. And then Charlotte does allow more 3-point field goals made per game than league average. They rank 17th in that category. So the 3 guys who rank in the top 50 here for Houston on that 3-point line, going to be Reed Shepherd, KD, and Jabari Smith. Shepherd ranks 39th. Durant ranks 42nd. Jabari Smith ranks 46th. And then, Houston, I mentioned that they have a real good defense. They're really good at preventing rebounds per game. Both of these teams are. Charlotte actually ranks first in opponent rebounds allowed per game, and Houston ranks third in that category. Houston's also good at limiting assists. Um, Really, the two vulnerabilities I see here with Houston are going to be points in the paint allowed per game and fast break points allowed per game, although they're still above average at defending against that. I didn't see any leaders for the points in the paint for Charlotte, but, fast break points. Kobe White, who was just traded to Charlotte. Like I said, I'm not sure if he's going to play today or not. Uh, that information will probably be a little bit more clear this afternoon, right? But Kobe White does technically rank first on the Houston Rockets, or excuse me, the Charlotte Hornets in fast break points per game. He ranks 16th in the NBA. And then we have Brandon Miller, who ranks 41st. And then Knipple, who ranks 46th. But yeah, Houston's a solid defensive team here. Shingun has not had a triple double in 8 career games against Charlotte. Amen Thompson has not had a triple double in 4 career games against Charlotte. And then LaMelo Ball has had a triple double in 1 out of 8 career games against Houston. How many games do we have left here? We have 3 games left to break down. San Antonio at Dallas. The Spurs 2-game win streak. Mavericks 5-game losing streak. Dallas didn't play yesterday, but the Spurs are on a back-to-back today. The Spurs have also won 2 regular season games in a row against Dallas. The Spurs won the only game that these teams have played against each other this season, which was October 22nd, and that game was in Dallas. This game is as well, but the Spurs did win that by a final score of 125-92. The Spurs have a 6-0 money line record on Thursdays this season, and Dallas is 3-4 on Thursdays this season. I mean, we did see the Nuggets, I think, yesterday, right? So they were like 8-0 on the money line on Wednesdays, and they ended up losing. And I think that the Lakers were like 9-0 this past Sunday on Sundays on the money line, but they ended up losing. But still, do want to get that information to you guys. San Antonio, last that I checked, they're favored by 7.5. I'm looking now, it's minus 6.5. Over under 223.5 when I checked a few hours ago. Now it's at 228.5. Against the spread trends, it's tied 2-2. I looked at 4 different spread against the spread trends. Let me just mention the ones that stuck out to me the most. Really, it's just going to be, the Spurs are better against the spread than the Mavericks. But the Spurs are also 6-2 against the spread with rest disadvantage, which ranks 5th best. And Dallas is 4-10 against the spread with rest advantage, which ranks 5th worst. So I would say, those are the 2 main ones that I see with those against the spread trends. I'm going to have to wrap this up within the next 10 minutes or so. So let's try to do a speed run here. Dallas ranks last in points in the paint allowed per game. Wembanyama is the leader for the Spurs in points in the paint per game and ranks 37th best in the NBA in that category. I'm looking here at fantasypros.com, and it's telling me that the Mavericks allow the second most points per game to opposing centers. So, there's obviously some other things that we could look at throughout the day, but if you're not really sure where to start, I think that's a good spot to start. That's why I really do these shows, to give you guys a good foundation to have for the rest of the day. Maybe you'll join some other live streams after this, or maybe you don't necessarily even have the time to do a lot of research, but you kind of want that quick information that what's valuable. I think this is a good place to start. But yeah, there's definitely more research that you guys could do throughout the day to help you. I mentioned that injuries are not even fully clear at this time of day, nor are even referee assignments. So, yeah, so Dallas is slightly below average in fast break points allowed per game. They rank 17th in that category. Castle and Vassell are the leaders for the Spurs in fast break points per game. Castle ranks 43rd in that category. Vassell ranks 45th. Um, the Mavericks are very good against the 3-point shot. They rank third best in the NBA in 3-point field goals allowed per game. They do, they're slightly below average in assists allowed per game. So if you like somebody for the Spurs with the assist, whether it be Castle or Fox, who are the leaders for this team in assists per game, you got that in your advantage. And then the Mavericks allow the third most rebounds per game to opposing teams. Wembanyama ranks fourth best in the NBA in rebounds per game. Cornette ranks 38th best in that category. And like I said, the Spurs have a pretty solid defense. Really, it looks like their biggest flaw is going to be that 3-point shot. They are slightly below average in that category. They rank 16th. Klay Thompson is the leader in 3-point field goals made per game for the Mavericks. He ranks 18th best in the NBA, followed up by Max Christie, who ranks 33rd. Other than that, the Spurs are above average in all the other categories that I usually talk about. And then Castle and Wembanyama both have never had a career triple-double in any of the 5 career games that they have both individually played against the Dallas Mavericks. Then we have the Warriors. Warriors at Phoenix. Neither of these teams played yesterday. Warriors have won one regular season game in a row against Phoenix. These teams have played 3 times this season, and Golden State does lead the season series 2-1. The one game that the Phoenix Suns did win, that game was in Phoenix, and Phoenix won that by a final score of 99-98. That game was also on a Thursday. Golden State's 3-4 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Phoenix is 4-1 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Phoenix is the best team against the spread this year. They're 34-17. The Warriors are 10th worst. They are 24-27 against the spread. Phoenix is also better against the spread as a home favorite than the Warriors are as a road underdog. Phoenix is 5th best against the spread as a home favorite. Warriors 5-5 against the spread as an away underdog. And then Phoenix is also 2nd best against the spread after a win. They're 19-11 against the spread after a win. Golden State's 12-11 against the spread after a loss. Team defensive efficiencies, both of these teams are above average. So really, Golden State's biggest vulnerability is fast break points allowed per game. Unfortunately for Phoenix, their fast break points per game leader, Devin Booker, from my understanding, is out tonight. But if you do find a guy for Phoenix to fill in that fast break void, I think they, generally speaking, have an advantage there. Both of these teams are just good at defending against the 3-point shot. Good at defending against points in the paint. I mean, Golden State's average at that. They rank 15th. So if you do like points in the paint guys such as Mark Williams tonight, who ranks 46th best in the NBA in points in the paint per game, you have that to your advantage. But also rebounds, right? Mark Williams leads the team in rebounds per game. Golden State is slightly below average in rebounds allowed per game as a team. They rank 16th in that category. And then, Steph Curry, from my understanding, is out of this game. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about with this game because these teams are so good at team defensive efficiency. But, Draymond Green does, for the Golden State Warriors, does technically have a triple-double in 1 out of 25 games of his last 25 games against Phoenix. And then the last game we'll talk about here is Philadelphia at the Lakers. This is probably the game that I'm looking forward to the most tonight. Philadelphia is on a 5-game win streak. Lakers on a 1-game winning streak. Neither of these teams played yesterday. The Lakers have won 1 regular season game in a row against Philadelphia. And then these teams played each other 1 time this season, and the Lakers won by a final score of 112-108. That game was on December 7th at Philadelphia. This one's at LA tonight. Philadelphia does have a 5-0 money line record on Thursdays this season. The Lakers are 2-3 on the money line on Thursdays this season. Maxey technically has a better career record against Doncic and LeBron. And then LeBron does have a 14-7 career record against Kelly Oubre Jr. An interesting statistic, and we saw this yesterday in that Boston game, right? But how Boston had won on February 4th, the past like 5 times they played on that date. Well, Philadelphia has lost on February 5th the past 6 times that they've played any team on this exact date. Last that I checked, the Lakers were favored by 3.5, over under 232.5. Now I'm seeing Lakers minus 4.5, over under 234.5. I looked at those trends against the spread trends. Philadelphia leads those against the spread trends 2-1. And, Philadelphia overall is the third best team against the spread this season. The Lakers are the eighth best. Um, and then the other two spreads against the spread trends are pretty close. But yeah, overall, Philadelphia wins those against the spread trends. And then team defensive efficiency. Philadelphia is slightly above average in that category. The Lakers are slightly below average. Philadelphia ranks 14th in team defensive efficiency, and the Lakers rank 23rd in that category. Points in the paint allowed per game by the Lakers, slightly below average. They rank 17th in that category. So guys like Maxey, who ranks 21st in the NBA in points in the paint per game, and Embiid, who ranks 35th best in points in the paint per game, generally speaking, could take advantage of that tonight. Also, the Lakers are slightly below average in defending against fast break points. Maxey. This game actually features the two fast break points per game leaders in the NBA, Maxey and LeBron James. But yeah, Maxey ranks second best in the NBA in fast break points per game. And then Lakers are slightly below average in allowing those 3-point shots to opposing teams. They rank 19th. Maxey ranks fifth best in the NBA in that category. The Lakers allow the sixth most assists per game to opposing teams. Maxey, leader for this team in assists per game. He ranks 11th best in the NBA, followed up by Edgecombe, who ranks 48th best in assists per game in the NBA. And then let's talk about this Philadelphia defense. They're slightly above average in points in the paint allowed per game. They rank 13th in that category. Really, their biggest flaw is the fast break points allowed per game. And they're going up against the fast break points per game leader, LeBron James, tonight. He ranks first in the NBA in that category. Philadelphia has done a pretty decent job at limiting 3-point field goals made per game to opposing teams. They rank 12th in that category, 12th best. But something that I see here with Philadelphia that they could maybe do a better job on is assists allowed per game and rebounds allowed per game. They rank 23rd in assists allowed per game. So if you like somebody for the Lakers tonight with assists, you got that in your favor tonight. Doncic does rank second best in the NBA in assists per game. And then rebounds. Philadelphia is slightly below average in allowing their opponents to get rebounds per game. Ayton ranks 18th best in the NBA in rebounds per game, followed up by Doncic, who ranks 24th best in the NBA in that category. And then also with Doncic tonight, I do give him a slight, free throw advantage. He is the leader of the NBA in free throw attempts per game. And Philadelphia does send their opponents to the line more times per game than league average. They rank 16th in opponent free throw attempts per game. I did notice Doncic just had a triple-double in 3 out of 11 career games against Philadelphia. LeBron has had a triple-double in 4 out of 25 career games against Philadelphia. And Embiid has had a triple-double in 1 out of 12 career games against Philadelphia. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to get out of here, but I really appreciate you guys for tuning in and hanging out with me. Yo, what's going on, Sean? Good to see you, man. Mavericks, Sean says Mavericks are bad ever since Mark sold out. Yeah, for sure, man. Draymond might be getting traded today. Absolutely. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the NBA right now, guys. A lot of trade rumors, a lot of trades that have already happened. So this is, one minute you may have somebody for a player prop. Next minute they're getting traded. So I think right now, this time of year, is really important to keep up with the trades that are happening and who's playing tonight, who's not playing tonight. Once again, my favorite sources for that information are rotowire.com and the FanDuel Daily Fantasy app. I think I've just always used those. Maybe you have a source that you like more than that, but I've relied on those sources for several years now, and I think they do overall a pretty good job at that. So, but anyways, I hope this helps you guys out. I'd like to thank you guys once again for tuning in and hanging out with me today. Thank you for the comments and everything. Also, if you guys could hit that subscribe button, we would appreciate that on your way out. Uh, and then I'd like to thank our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, OpenGoal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, everybody. Thanks again. Good luck today and take care, everybody. Blessed Up P says best to wait till after 4 p.m. to place anything. Yeah, absolutely, man. So, hey, thank you. Thank you. All right, everybody. Take care. Good luck today. Peace.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.